And so let's talk about the article. What they don't have eyes or ears or a nervous system, but plants can talk. Okay, so what does they mean? It means plants, right? So we're talking about they don't have eyes or ears or what we would call a nervous system, but plants can talk. And plants, they can listen. First, we'll need a plant eater. Okay? This is an aphid. This is a pH is the F sound. It's an aphid, a hungry little critter. Critter could be an animal or an insect who loves to munch, who loves to eat fresh. Munch on means to eat fresh green leaves. Next, we arrange lunch. First, we choose a bunch of young, healthy bean plants with lots of broad green leaves. Broad means wide. Then we carefully drop our aphid, make that many aphids. When he says make that many aphids, he means to say, more accurately, many aphids. Then we carefully drop our aphid onto the bean plants where they land and begin to chew. And the aphids spread across the plant, biting the leafy surface. Leafy it's an adjective for leaf. You know, they're broad and they're green and they're flexible. And gobbling means eating. Okay. So we go down to the next one. Okay, when a plant is under attack, it doesn't sit quietly. And these scientists, these guys here, these are the two scientists. They reported. They found out. They reported and published their experiences. In one case, it was a maple sapling. Maple's a kind of tree. Sapling is a baby plant. They reported of these saplings being bitten by insects, and then those saplings released a spurt, like a burst or a really tiny explosion of chemicals that float through the air. And these chemicals carry a slight odor that other plants, neighboring plants, nearby plants, can detect. It's like a silent scream. Okay, next page. So, in our case here, when the distress signal reaches two bean plants on either side of our aphid-covered plant, they also emit VOCs, cries of their own. So you got him screaming, and then they are screaming because he's screaming. So everybody is screaming, and that's an alarm. Some bean plants pump out chemicals designed to keep the aphids away. Those are yucky, stinky, smelly irritants, things that bother or irritate the insects. Especially noxious. Nauseous means poisonous to invaders. But some bean plants do double duty. Double duty means they're doing two different jobs at the same time. They have two responsibilities at the same time. They're accomplishing two tasks at the same time. And they pump out attractants. Attractants are things that attract. Like perfume. Here it says perfumes designed to lure, to attract different insects, different airborne insects. Airborne means flying, right? In this particular case, wasps. Wasps are kind of a nasty flying insect that can sting you. Wasps are an aphid's worst nightmare. Once they arrive, the tables are turned. The tables are turned means the situation gets reversed. The critter, the insect, who was eating. Here, lunching is a verb. It's the present progressive form. The past progressive form of to lunch. So sometimes lunch is actually a verb. And I'm just pointing that out because you've probably seen that before. So the critter who was lunching now becomes lunch. And that's a noun. Lunch is a noun there, and lunch is a verb. Relatively speaking, or by comparison, stay pet resistant. And they're able to resist the pests and the insects. Apparently, they heard the alarm and they knew what to do. Does this mean that plants talk to each other? Did the first plant in some way intentionally send its warning? Was it doing a Paul Revere? Paul Revere was an American hero who warned of the British invasion. Scientists don't know. Maybe the first plant just made, or the verb for cry, or the verb to say something, uttered a cry of pain, or was sending a message. So you can utter a cry, you can utter a phrase, you can utter a word. It was uttering a cry, sending a message to its own branches, And so, in effect, was talking to itself. Soliloquy. Scientists call this a soliloquy. Perhaps the neighbors just happened to overhear the cry, so the information was exchanged. Still, the more they look, the more scientists discover plants chattering, talking, communicating. It's pretty spectacular what plants can do. Ted Farmer of the University of Lausanne told Quantum Magazine, "I'm amazed." Not only do plants use airborne chemicals, they send signals underground through their roots. Some make ultrasonic clicking sounds, click, 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 click. What feels to us like a quiet day in the forest may in fact be a hurly-burly of wafting, pulsing, clicking, plant-to-plant communication. Hurly-burly, let's see. Hurly-burly just means really busy. And wafting, hurly-burly, wafting. Let's check those out. Okay, so what I did was I went copy. I copied these, and now I'm going to go over to Word, another Word document, I should say. And I'm going. Actually, we're going to go to the internet. It's a lot of activity, a lot of things going on. A little bit chaotic, busy. Okay, a little bit busy, chaotic, wafting, floating through the air. Okay, so go down here. Sometimes the chatter leaps across the species lines. In other words, sometimes the communication isn't just with other plants of the same kind of plants. Sometimes it's with other species of plants. So, for example, they simulated an animal attack on a sagebrush. Okay. In the lab, as the animal ate the sage leaves, scientists watched the sage plant send a chemical signal into the air. Okay. What was the word that we used for putting something, kind of a tiny explosion? You remember that word? So the sage plant sent a chemical into the air. It's not an explosion. Let's see if we can find that word. Conversations. They pump out extractants. They pump out. There's another word that we used here too. So you'll see the same idea getting repeated in different words throughout the text. This is very common sometimes. Pump out. Let's see if we can find the other word. Okay, that has the same meaning, kind of like a burst or a small explosion or something. And they release, kind of like similar. Release, pump out, pump through the air. The chemicals that they pump through the air, pump out, release. Let's see what else we got here. Okay, that was the word right here, spurt. When they release a spurt of chemicals. Okay, so now you have release a spurt of chemicals. Do that. And then we have, what else do we have? Do you remember? Release chemicals, pump, same idea, pump. Let's see, what else do we have? You can probably find more. I'm just going to give you some examples. But this is when you're reading, you want to try to look through and try to find the same ideas repeated with different words. Emit, there's another one for you. What do you think about that one? Emit. Let's see, pump out. All these are the same idea. They're just used, and they use different words to convey or communicate the same meaning. There's our angry wasp there. Let's see what else. Extensive chemical conversations. You heard the alarm, you know what to do. Uttered a cry of pain, said message. Send signals underground. That's a little different, right? Okay, so let's continue with, what was it? The other one we were looking at now, I can't remember. Same for us. First peep. Okay. Everyone sends signals. Talking to myself. I can't remember. I'm sure you guys can find it a lot faster than I can right now because I'm trying to focus on this, but on communicating the main ideas of this article. Anyway, and sometimes the chatter leaps across species lines. Scientists have simulated an animal attack on sagebrush. Oh, you already talked about this. Okay, and then plants send a signal into the air. There it is again. Push out, emit, spurt. Same idea. Okay, a spurt is the noun for send a signal, for example. Okay, it's not. When you look at your dictionary, you guys get in trouble when you're using the dictionary. You're trying to look up every single word, and you go, well, they don't match. Well, we're not talking about exact definition meanings. We're talking about similar ideas. And so my goal here is to help you understand the main idea of what you're reading, not the subtle, complex differences between words. Okay, that's not going to help you understand the larger picture and the general meaning of what you're reading. And that's really what you want. You want to be able to read something and understand the main ideas, be able to talk intelligently about it. All right, so let's continue down. So they sent a chemical signal into the air, and then emitted. There's emit again. Similar ideas get repeated. Emitted an odor that was nauseous to the animal, strong enough to repel the antelope. Wow! The smell's so bad the antelope takes off, runs away. Protecting itself and arguably, and you can argue, you can say, helping the stage. What a complex dance. Charles Darwin, 150 years ago, imagined a far busier, noisier, and more intimate world than we see and hear today. And then he used an expression, infinitely close fitting are the mutual relationships of all organic beings. That's a pretty neat expression. And that's the end of the article. As you know, I didn't go through every single word because you had a chance for me to read it slowly before, and now I'm just going through, talking about it, giving you a chance to practice your listening and follow along on what we're talking about. You're able to follow along and look at the text so you can kind of stay in the same train of thought.